Hello bikers and welcome to Trail Trekker Ultimate Tour Guides, your one-stop shop for all the information you need to prepare yourself for epic mountain bike tours. First tour of this new series has been described as the mother of all enduro tours, and it certainly doesn't disappoint, with 75 kilometers of riding, 10 uplifts and over 6,000 meters of descending. Yes, you heard that right, over 6 kilometers of down, all in one day. So let's get to it and see what this tour's all about. Best place to start out is to take the two lifts from the city of Chur to the top of the Alpine Bike Park, which leaves you just a short pedal from the first single track descent. Okay, so at the ski resort, and here we go. First little bit of downhill. Sweet trail. It's always interesting, first ride down the trail blind. So that was me thinking I wouldn't be using the motor much, but bringing the e-bike has already started to pay off. Right, damn it. For a second there, I almost felt a little guilty about my e-bike. Once you've conquered the short climb, this double track takes you all the way down to Churwalden, where you can pick up the next lift and enjoy some of the finest music Switzerland has to offer. Pretty amazing views. Hello ladies! This undulating traverse along the side of the valley is a mixture of double and single track, which takes you to the second descent of the tour, down to the Heidsee in Chur-Lenzerheide. Now it's time to hit up lift number 4. Gotta love a chairlift. And number 5, which will take you up to the top of Piz Scalottas. So we've made it to the top of the 5th lift of the day, which gives us a perfect opportunity to get our bearings a little bit. If you look down into the valley there, you can see that's Lenzerheide, and you can see just there the lift that goes up. That takes you up to the Rothorn, and that's where we'll be heading to next. And you can see in the distance there, just about there, is the top of the 3rd lift that we took today from Churwalden. This next descent is, depending on your pace, a solid 10 to 15 minutes of beautifully crafted single track that snakes back and forth across the fall line, making the most of every single vertical meter you gained on the second lift. Wow, this trail's fun. Very few braking bumps, pretty decent flow. Wow, it's lovely. Unfortunately though, the second half of this descent is not quite as exciting as the first. There is a short piece of single track, but it's mainly a scenic double track loop back down to the village. Here we are, back in Lenzerheide again. Up there towards the left is where we got on lifts number 4 and 5. Now we're going to go down to the right and get on the lift up to the Rothorn. So this is now lift number 6. Then just one more lift up to the Rothorn and the beginning of what has to be the highlight of this tour. A half-hour-long descent down to Arosa. If you're enjoying the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you could help a fellow mountain biker out and subscribe to the channel, that would be awesome. What an amazing trail. And then, as if things couldn't get better, all of a sudden this spectacular view down the valley towards Arosa opens up on your right hand side. The trail starts out pretty rocky. A bit of exposure. That is epic. I think there's no other word to describe it. Just look at that view ahead. But as you descend further down into the alpine meadows, the flow starts to pick up. Beware though, this trail has a sting in its tail. Wow, this is like a chunky tech paradise. That's what you're into. Here we go, lift number 8, the Hörnli Express. The next trail is a massive change of gear. The longest machine-built flow trail that I have ever ridden. Oh, it's a bit of a contrast compared to the last trail. Ow again. Ow. Ow. That's better. It's probably pretty good if flow trails are your thing. I'll be honest, I wouldn't come to Arosa just to ride it. It's a little bit vanilla. Ooh, ooh, ooh. That was close. Don't put your front wheel above the berm. Not quite sure how I saved that. It's then just a gentle roll down the road through the village to the Obersee, where you pick up the last 2 lifts of the day to the top of the Weisshorn. So I've managed to find 2 guys who know the way, and they've kindly said I can follow them. This next leg of the tour down to the village of Tschiertschen starts off with some superb alpine single track flow. Before coming to an abrupt end at probably the toughest section of trail on the entire tour. Thankfully though, it's not long before we're back to the flow. seems like endless flow finally gives way to a double track traverse before you hit the final single track into Tschiertschen. After Tschiertschen, there's a final single track descent down into the valley and back to Chur.
And here you go, at the end of, I don't know how many kilometres, maybe my bike will tell me, 74.3 kilometres, a lot of vertical metres of descent. Here we are, back in the city of Chur. How awesome is that?
Now, you've got an idea of what the tour's all about, but let's face it, most YouTube videos don't really give you the full picture. So, let's do something about that. The question I often get asked is, when can you ride these trails? Now, as you've seen, there are a number of high alpine sections, and this means that snow can be an issue early in the season. But usually by mid-July, the trails should be open, and the season can continue on through into October or even November, weather permitting. Best thing to do is check out the Chur-Lenzerheide website just to be sure. How much is the lift ticket? Last year, a day pass for you and your bike for the entire Chur-Lenzerheide-Arosa region cost 59 francs. Do you have to start the tour in Chur? No, you could start the tour in Lenzerheide, Chur or Arosa. But for most of us, if you're coming from the motorway, Chur is the closest, and on top of that, parking at the lift station is free. Is there anywhere to get food on the route? Yes. Tour takes you through a number of different villages with shops and restaurants. But if this is your first time doing the tour, I would just take a packed lunch and snack on the way. Last thing you want to do is to spend ages in a restaurant and then find you're running out of time and have to rush to catch lifts. Do you need an e-bike? No. The route I took had somewhere between 300 and 400 metres of climbing spread throughout the day. But whatever bike you take, you need to remember that it is a full day in the saddle, so you do need to make sure you've got the fitness for that. If you do take an e-bike though, make sure you have a means of taking your battery out of the bike, because on the second lift of the day, they won't let you on if you can't. How easy is it to navigate? Well, I used the Bike Kingdom app on my mobile phone, which was okay, but it certainly wasn't plain sailing. I spent quite a lot of time checking my phone, and I even managed to miss a turn on the way down from Piz Scalottas.
In my enthusiasm for that last trail, I took a wrong turning. Okay, problem solved. I wasn't on the wrong trail. I just made the mistake of following the signs that said mountain bikes.
I'll put a link to a 3D animated map in the description, which should help, but a GPS or a better app on your phone like Komoot is definitely recommended. Failing that, you can always ask someone or even try and find some friendly bikers to follow. The lifts up to Piz Scalottas and the second Weisshorn lift won't take downhill bikes, and I've also heard that they won't take you if you've got a full face helmet. So, be warned. Give yourself time for the lift up to the Rothorn. I went on a Thursday, I think it was, and I must have spent half an hour queuing for that lift. I actually took the wrong route down from the top of the Hörnli Express lift. I should have taken the Hörnli trail, which I hear is pretty technical, and would have linked up with the trail that I'd taken to the bottom of the lift before. Instead, I ended up taking the flow trail, which was flowy. Make sure you watch out for the turn off onto the single track that takes you into Tschiertschen. I think it could be easily missed, and that would be a shame. Another one to watch out for is the entrance to the final trail of the day. If you're bombing down the road, I think it could just be all too easily to sail straight past it. Hopefully I've managed to whet your appetite and got some of you already planning to tackle this tour in the summer. If you want to see the trails in a little bit more detail, I'll put links to raw edits of all the descents in the description. If you have any questions about the tour, please leave them in the comments. If you like this format, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. Thanks for coming along, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.